All right, let's go ahead and go into this, and let me put this face upon me. Yeah, I think we're getting somewhere. All right, so let's go into it. So today's date is September 21st, 2019, and this is how the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, Will Buchanan. On how the Frack We Got Here, we do take the events and news of the previous week and also try to make sense out of it all. Before I do get started, this is an adult podcast, which means things of adult language may be seen, shown, or heard, and some things of a graphic nature may be shown, so viewer discretion is definitely advised. Aside from that, guys, welcome. So let's go ahead and get into it because, it wouldn't be a week without Trump. And good Lord, it was a week. Let's see if it'll let me do it. There we go.
Trump now defiant and dismissive of that explosive whistleblower complaint against him.
It's a ridiculous story. It's a partisan whistleblower. They shouldn't even have information. I don't know the identity of the whistleblower. I just hear it's a partisan person.
Late tonight, new details about what's in that complaint, with the Washington Post reporting President Trump, in a July call, pressured the head of Ukraine to more aggressively pursue an investigation into political rival Joe Biden, according to people familiar with the matter. One source indicated there was not an explicit quid pro quo in that call. NBC News has not independently confirmed the report.
But I can say that it was a totally appropriate conversation. It was actually a beautiful conversation.
But the president today would not say whether he brought up the Bidens.
It doesn't matter what I discussed, but I will say this. Somebody ought to look into Joe Biden's statement because it was disgraceful.
The president's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, has suggested then Vice President Biden tried to stop an investigation into a Ukrainian company that named his son to its board, despite no evidence of wrongdoing by Joe Biden. Giuliani contradicting himself overnight.
Did you ask the Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden?
No, actually, I didn't.
So you did ask Ukraine to look into Joe Biden?
Of course I did.
Biden today.
Not one single credible outlet has given any credibility to his assertion.
House Democrats still demanding details of the Trump administration about the complaint.
This was about wrongdoing, and the idea that that complaint, which was intended for Congress, should instead end up in the White House is disturbing beyond belief.
And in a new statement late tonight, former Vice President Biden is calling on the White House to release any transcript of the call in question, adding what's being reported is true. He says there's no bottom to President Trump's willingness to abuse his power.
And honestly, that might be the understatement of the year. So for all those that don't know what happened, pretty much a whistleblower complaint, which basically means that someone within the White House, someone within Congress, someone in the House of Representatives may have reported suspicious activity on anyone. So that's why they call it a whistleblower complaint, just basically because it has to go to the House committee, the House Intelligence Committee, for them to investigate, which in this case happens to be someone that said that Trump may have also, again, been reaching out to foreign powers. Again, as if that's nothing new. He's already done it multiple times. And the reason why this is damaging is because this is a impeachable offense, which we all know the Democrats are waiting to actually work on. So again, he's arguing the fact that, this is nothing. It was an innocent call, all this stuff. The usual Trump playbook. Deflect, blame, and then hope to God it blows over. And that's the reason why it involves Joe Biden, because Joe Biden and his son were basically working for a Ukrainian company, which, again, I always said it best, if you want to know where Congress is, follow the money. But in this case, he's just trying to deflect, and it really is a lot of bullshit, just because this man has already got multiple impeachment offenses against him, and yet this man is still president. Figure that out. But moving right along, I did love this story so much because I always said that children are the wisest among us, and this is why I say why.
People turning out in the streets of major cities to draw attention to the impacts of climate change. They're calling it the climate strike. Students skipping out on school, workers off the job today as these large-scale demonstrations, and everywhere from Australia to the Philippines to Belgium to New York, captivating our viewers with these images, really extraordinary scenes, including in the city of Seattle in Washington State. And that's where I'm joined now by LaMonica Peters Affairs with our affiliate, ABC affiliate Como. She's been tracking those developments. LaMonica, great to see you. Give us a sense of the scope of the protest you're covering, and is it like anything you've seen before?
We're pretty well known for our protest here in Seattle, so this one is just as well attended as you would expect. There are thousands of kids here, and I don't know if you guys know this, but Seattle Public Schools did not excuse these students, but they showed up anyway. Even some of the teachers are here, parents are here, kids of all ages are here, and they tell me that they are just fighting for their future. One of the student organizers that I talked to, she told me that kids her age, 16 and 17, have climate anxiety. That's what they're calling it, climate anxiety. And some of them are so upset and so worried about their futures that they're thinking about not even having children because they don't want to bring them into a world that's full of pollution, where we have these major hurricanes every year. So they're really just here to let everybody know that they want their voices heard, even though they're not old enough to vote just yet.
Wow, we see the signage behind you. We hear the chants, LaMonica. We sure can. Tell us, are they demanding anything specific? Are the protesters there in Seattle calling for any specific concrete action?
Seattle has its own version of the new Green Deal. So what they'd like to see is climate pollution eliminated or decreased by the year 2030, and they want to create thousands of green jobs. They believe that this is the way of the future, and these jobs will be necessary. They want people to start getting trained for them right now. So, yeah, they're asking for the same things that everyone around the world is asking for. But particularly here in Seattle, they want to eliminate climate pollution.
Now, you have to love that. You really have to love that. The simple fact of the matter is, kids, mind you, even though I was like, I always said it best, if you don't skip school for a good reason. And I love the fact that these are children that are actually coming out and are actually joining the debate, the discussion, really the fight, just to honestly say, hey, we need to pay more attention to our planet. When are we going to finally put our planet ahead of profits? And I just thought that was beautiful. That to me was like, the next generation gets it, because they may not have a planet to have after us. So, I mean, again, for all those that, whether you believe in climate change, which I find it very, very, very hard that if you still don't believe in climate change, gonna really have to ask you to educate yourself, just because it is real. If you don't believe it, look at the record heat that's still been going on, especially in my home state of Tennessee. It is September. We are still in the 90s. Alaska is 90. Alaska used to be considered the coldest point in the world, next to Siberia. Siberia is 90. Alaska has recorded 90-degree weather for over 3 weeks. Climate change is real. Hurricane season might as well just be pretty much wherever coast you're at is going to be gone. Again, climate change is real. So to sit there and say that it's not would be asinine and crazy at the same time, would be just heavily overlooked. But now, everybody's getting into it. And I love the fact that this was a worldwide protest. So that tells you it's not just us, it's not just a specific area. We are all coming together on this, and that to me is beautiful. But moving right along, Nancy Pelosi, I try not to report on her so much because just like Mitch McConnell on the other side, she is the dam that prevents the impeachment assets from running. And now, just another set of questions she has, again, makes me cringe.
An impeachment inquiry into President Trump is underway.
Do I concede now? Have you not paid attention to what we've been talking about? For months, we've been saying we're doing three things. We are legislating, we're investigating, as 6 committees have been doing 4 months. 6 committees have been working 4 months. And third, we are litigating. We are taking the work of the committees into the into the courts.
Is the specific language not important? I mean, how should the American people understand
The American
work of this
people
committee when members
understand
are
that
speaking very differently about it?
It's not, you're the only ones who are sowing this.
That's not true, ma'am.
It isn't true. I travel the entire country. Come with me sometime, and you'll hear what the American people are saying. They understand that impeachment is a very divisive measure. But if we have to go there, we'll have to go there.
We have heard many of the members of your caucus who have been very open in saying that they're getting mixed messages. And those mixed messages sometimes translate to the American public. And you've long said that public sentiment is an important factor in deciding what you're going to do there. So shouldn't you set the record straight?
I said what I'm going to say on the subject. That's it. We are legislating. We are focusing on the work that we're here to do for the American people.
And just to follow up, are you uncomfortable with the term impeachment inquiry? Is there another term we should be using?
I'm not. Thank you all very much. Let me see. We are on our path. Where it takes us is where we will follow the facts. That's what it is. Why don't we spend some time going over to see Mitch McConnell and asking him why he doesn't want to save lives? Why he will let every day go by where at least 100 people, a large number of them children or teenagers, die from gun violence. Why is it that you hung up?
So I'm just going to stop it there just because it's just worthless. Nancy Pelosi, I just don't understand. You are literally the Mitch McConnell of the Democratic area. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying when it comes down to my areas, I'm not Democrat, because I have issues with their unity, and the simple fact of the matter is you have folks that just seriously need to go. I'm sure as hell not Republican because everything they stand for is literally against women, people of color, transgenders, and all that crap. But Pelosi, you finally have a chance to sit there and acknowledge whether or not you're following with it. We are litigating, we are legislating. No, you're bullshitting is what you're doing. And the simple fact of the matter is everybody can see it. Even the reporters sitting there saying the whole time, well, is there a different word you want to use besides impeachment? No, we're not using impeachment, but you're investigating the president. Yes. Your own House Judiciary Commission, your House Judiciary Committee has already sat there and said, we are defining the rules for impeaching the president. Keep in mind, Democrats, when y'all got back the House, your whole idea was that, hey, we are going to impeach the president. Pelosi has used the word impeach before she got back into office. And now she's back into office, it's almost like she's the Mitch McConnell on the other side. She just won't pull the trigger, and yet for all intents and purposes, we can't figure out why. I mean, you have so much. The Mueller report gives a roadmap to how to impeach the president. He has multiple impeachment offenses of his own. And yet, you don't want to sit there and say it because impeachment is a divisive issue. So I have a question. Who on the Democratic side doesn't want to impeach? That would be my question off the bat. Aside from that, why are we doing it? And it's just amazing when she goes, well, just why don't you ask Mitch McConnell? No, because Mitch has already shown his alliances. We need to know where yours lie. But again, I'm not surprised about Nancy Pelosi because everybody else, when you have 110 of your own party that wants to move forward with impeachment investigations against the president, and you're saying, well, no, still, then it's maybe time to get rid of you. But again, it's really just crazy. But moving forward, this was a really shocking video. And I mean by that is this the society we're about to be living in when this kind of stuff happens?
Instead of helping him.
Police say some of the final moments of 16-year-old Cassine Morris's life were recorded on cell phones and streamed on social media.
Kids stood here and didn't help Cassine. Would rather video this event.
Police say dozens of people watched an unarmed Morris get stabbed earlier this week outside of a strip mall in Nassau County, New York, and did nothing to help.
There was several kids here. There's got to be about 50, 60, 70 kids here. We have a handful of kids that have come forward, that have identified subjects involved in this. There is definitely more.
Morris was taken to a hospital where he later died. Investigators say the fight Morris was involved in was over a girl.
It's over a common girl and a perception of who she might be dating or who she might be hanging with.
Homicide detectives are now urging and warning witnesses to come forward.
You need to get out in front of this. After I put handcuffs on you is not going to be the time to be helpful for you.
Officials say police presence has now been beefed up around the school and the area where the fight took place. Nassau County put out a statement on the stabbing saying, quote, "If you see someone in serious danger, please use your phone to get help, not likes and shares."
You guys took my brother away from me and my family.
I'm Reed Binion reporting.
All right, let's try it again. So what's so crazy about that is where I look at that, I'm just wondering where our world is going to these days. For simply put, are we going to be that point to where, a fight breaks out and 9 times out of 10, if it's something like a beatdown, and don't get me wrong, about fights, I do believe, like, hey, if it's between you and this cat, it's between you and this cat. I'm not jumping in. Now, if you just see somebody just getting mauled and they can't defend themselves, I never understood the fascination of just pulling out your phone and recording. I don't. I still don't. I mean, that's not the first time we see it. I mean, you go on World Star and you can find hundreds upon thousands of videos where you saw fights breaking out and immediately you felt the impassioned need to record. I've never understood that. Excuse me. I've never honestly understood that. I've never understood the need to the need to put it out there and old boy got his ass whooped and all this stuff. I don't ever foresee the need to do that, especially since in this case the kid's life was lost. So it honestly makes me wonder where this country's going in this case. If people are gonna start reaching for their phones instead of helping individuals, especially in that sense. A life didn't need to be lost if somebody actually stepped in and helped. But excuse me. But moving right along, some interesting news in this tariff war that we're in, and I mean interesting because never thought I'd see China do this.
In this case, tariffs that have already been applied, they're going to be waived going forward for a year. This feels like a huge step from China. Is it an olive branch ahead of fresh talks, or is this acknowledgement that tariffs are hurting the domestic economy, or perhaps both here?
I think a little bit of both, but the latter is a big driver here. I mean, you're talking about cancer treatment drugs, and you're talking about the kinds of products you use to feed livestock and in the production of their own agriculture industry. So it looks to me like they're trying to make sure that really important parts of their economy aren't going to be hurt, and the social, frankly, social stability in their country isn't going to be hurt by the higher prices there. Cancer patients and farmers, that's, pretty basic here. So you got 2 big rounds here. One list, it's a total, you can waive these categories. It's everything from shrimp seedlings, fish meal for feed, lubricating oil and the like. The second list, these are also exemptions, whey, a mold release agent, a base stock for lubricating oil. Some of these you're going to be able to get a refund on if you've already paid these tariffs. Others, there's just a reprieve going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did note that neither pork nor soybeans, of course, critical.
Politically sensitive, not on that list.
Yeah. First of its kind, though, in this.
Okay. So long story short, what's basically going on is everybody thinks that China is starting to break about this trade war, especially Trump supporters. They would love to say that this is right. Actually, it's not. This is basically China putting out an olive branch because, again, I've said this before on many podcasts, you're not going to hurt China when they corner the market on manufacturing production and they control the labor costs in their own country. And since a majority of our stuff that we usually get comes from there, they control the market. So what does this mean? This might mean that China is willing to deal because at this point, unless Trump is going to keep on bailing out farmers, which he's already done now twice, this looks more like, hey, we're trying to help you versus us trying to say, we're in trouble, we need you to help us. No. So I don't really consider this a win. I consider this like China saying, look, let's stop the bullshit. Let's just go ahead and hammer this out. we'll go back to the original deal we had, lift off the tariffs and everybody's gravy. But I don't see it happening from Trump's set on because, again, he can always turn around and still do his usual, well, I told you guys, I'm the best deal maker. I'm the best deal maker. I know what's best. You should listen to me. He'll do that whole crap again, which we hope to God he doesn't. But speaking of Trump, like I said, he made this week entirely about him. Anybody ready for World War III? But what I mean by that is basically this.
The weekend, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says Iran launched nearly a dozen cruise missiles and over 20 drones in an attack on a key Saudi oil facility. With tensions already high, Trump warned the U.S. was locked and loaded. I want to bring in Louis Martinez at the Pentagon. Louis, good to see you. How do we know who's responsible for this?
Well, Kimberly, two things that are going on. One is that U.S. officials are telling us that, yes, Iran was responsible for this attack, that it's not the Houthi rebels in Yemen who are claiming responsibility for this attack that was behind it. They're saying that these missiles could have only come from one direction, which was from the north, which would have been from Iran. We also have Saudi military spokesman telling reporters in Riyadh just moments ago that, yes, it was Iran that was responsible for this. They're not saying that it was the Yemenis because they say that they've looked at some of the remnants of some of these devices that were left behind that may not have exploded, or the remnants that did after explosions, and they are Iranian-made, and that the Houthis in Yemen could not have been responsible. So what we saw on Sunday was the administration releasing the satellite imagery that showed the precision with which some of these strikes occurred at these very large oil facilities in Saudi Arabia, and they're pointing the fingers all the way at Iran on this one.
So I just want to talk about the rhetoric that President Trump used. He said,
so I'm going to stop it right there just because he goes into other stuff. So as you can tell, there was an attack on a Saudi oil facility, and Iran was basically, I'm not going to say blamed, but being seen as the prime suspect, which in case gave Trump all the ammo he needed to sit there and say, well, we're ready to roll if need be. And of course, something like this, when he says something more to Iran, also makes you cringe a little bit.
With Iran, you've now named a new national security advisor, Robert Bryan.
Yes.
What is he recommending to you in terms of dealing with the latest strikes on Saudi Arabia and the response? And then secondly, announced new sanctions on Iran. Secretary Mnuchin said that this affects the last available funds for that regime. Have we now exhausted sanctions in regards to Iran?
Well, these are the strongest sanctions ever put on a country. We are at a level of sanction that is far greater than ever before with respect to Iran. Today we did central bank, as you know, and we'll see. We'll see. They're having a lot of problems, not only with us, they're having problems within their own country, and I think they have a lot of self-made problems. We are by far the strongest military in the world. Going into Iran would be a very easy decision, as I said before, be very easy, the easiest thing. Most people thought I would go in within 2 seconds, but plenty of time. In the meantime, they have a lot of problems within Iran. Iran could be a great country, could be a rich country, but they are choosing to go a different way. There'll be a point at which they'll be very sorry for that choice. But I think I'm showing great restraint. A lot of people respect it. Some people don't. Some people say, oh, you should go in immediately. And other people are so thrilled at what I'm doing. And I don't do it for anybody. I do it for what's good for the United States, what's good for our allies. And it's working out really very.
So I'm just going to stop it there just because it's not even worth going into the rest of it. The simple fact of the matter is that this man just sat there and said it would be very easy, and then turns around and says, well, I was just showing great restraint. You just contradicted yourself. Again, I'm not surprised because he wants a war. Let's be honest, it's always been about oil. It's always been about control of a region that has one of the largest deposits of oil on Earth. Iran does make up 5% of the world's oil supply. So again, not surprising that he's sitting there saying, well, I could have went in, we could have won, and we could have controlled that region, but I'm showing great restraint. I'm showing great restraint. No, you're not. You couldn't show restraint going into McDonald's, much less work about war in Iran. But then again, I really shouldn't be surprised anyway, because what actually wound up happening was exactly what I thought would happen. In this case, they began deploying U.S. forces to Saudi Arabia after the drone attacks on the oil sites. Now, I love what they said at the very bottom of this, was that the troops would be primarily focused on air and missile defenses, and that they would also accelerate shipment of military hardware to Saudi Arabia and the UAE. So, again, keep in mind, if you're wondering, Saudi Arabia, yes, the same family that basically buys most of Trump's hotels in New York, the ones that are the ones that were the first to purchase the president. We should not be surprised that he immediately goes running to Saudi Arabia's aid just because now Iran is threatening. And even if Iran is threatening, for the simple fact of the matter is, no one has actually claimed responsibility for the drone strikes. This is just a smokescreen to start World War III. But again, like I said, Trump, being himself, has always been able to make it to where it's about him, especially in the sense of gun control, which is another thing which I still find funny.
President Trump seemed eager to be out campaigning, first turning an official event in Pennsylvania on Tuesday into a highly political speech, and then holding one of his signature campaign rallies Thursday in New Hampshire. There, he seemed to backtrack on gun control and told voters because of the economy, he is their only choice, whether they like him or not.
Traveling to a state that he narrowly lost in 2016, the president seemed optimistic there wouldn't be a repeat.
We begin this campaign tonight with the best record, the best results, the best agenda, and the only positive vision for the people of New Hampshire.
The rally, pretty tame, no send them backs, but still plenty to get the crowd riled up.
You got Pocahontas is rising. You got Kamala. Kamala is falling. You got Beto. Beto is like gone.
But it wasn't the Democrats that had the faithful here worried. No, it was the possibility the president would cave and allow some new gun legislation in wake of the massacres in El Paso and Dayton. Trump initially seemed to be open to the idea of some new protections.
Well, I'm looking to do background checks. I think background checks are important.
But during this rally, as he has before, he pivoted to blame mental health.
People have to remember, however, that there is a mental illness problem that has to be dealt with. It's not the gun that pulls the trigger. It's the person holding the gun. We can't make it harder for good, solid, law-abiding citizens to protect themselves. We will always uphold the right to self-defense.
Outside, his supporters echoing that point.
Making sure that somebody is not mentally ill, I can see that. But other than that,
some worry he could be pressured into taking strong action.
I'm a little nervous about that because the Democrats, they want to take the guns away from people, but the only people that are going to actually give up their guns are the good people, which leaves the bad guys with the guns. So that's a sticky one right there.
He would probably lose the vote on the gun people.
If he does what?
If he goes too far with it. Yeah. That's a big vote.
As for voters still on the fence, he had this do-or-die pitch.
You have no choice but to vote for me because your 401ks, down the tubes, everything's going to be down the tubes. So whether you love me or hate me, you got to vote for me.
Spoken like a true dictator. So again, a few things that I had to say this because it is amazing to me. Like, I didn't expect Trump. Don't get me wrong. I did not expect this fool to say anything intelligent. I really didn't. He's gonna pander to his base, which is mostly homosexuals, racists, bigots, and xenophobes, and just people who just hate themselves, I guess. I get that. The whole thing about, it's not about the gun, it's the person who shoots the gun. Okay, let's tackle this asinine argument that people love to use. It's just that, well, we shouldn't ban the gun. It should be the people who have banned the guns. Okay, so you're saying that you're talking about mental health. Yes. Okay, well, if we're talking about mental health, then let's do mental health evaluations done by a psychiatrist to see whether or not that you are fit to have firearms. That means I had to be investigated. Yes. I don't want to do that. Then how do we know if the person who's buying the gun really should have it? Or I love the fact of, I don't want, they're going to come and take our guns. No one has come and taken your guns in a very, very long time. The last time any guns were ever taken was the Revolutionary War. Aside from that, name one point in U.S. history where the U.S. government actually came and seized guns from people. That's the homosexuals, and I say homosexuals because that is their favorite fantasy. Their favorite fantasy is a tyrannical government that's going to come and take away their guns, and they want to be able to defend them because it's their right. Keep in mind, the Second Amendment is not about defending yourself. It's about forming local militias to defend against tyrannical government. That's what the Second Amendment is for. It is not the right to sit there and have 1,000 rounds of ammo, all the guns you want, and a tank sitting out in your backyard. That's what it's not for. So, the whole idea of gun control always comes down to this. Are we willing to do the necessary legislation, new laws, new rules, things of that nature? And yes, if we need to ban an assault rifle, like we kind of did before the Clinton administration, which was very effective, why not? It worked when we had the ban on assault rifles, mass murders were actually down. So we should not be surprised when you lift the ban, what happens? But again, not expecting a lot from Donald Trump as far as this goes. Like I said, his whole thing of you have no choice but to vote for me should tell you along the lines exactly what this man stands for and how full of shit he really is. So, speaking of full of shit, new Trump company man, Matthew Albans, who is now the director of ICE, after the last one was, I won't say fired, but yeah, she was really fired, has this to say about ICE and their agents and things of that nature. And I just thought this was interesting.
In media vilifying sworn federal law enforcement officers that are doing their patriotic duty. Many of our officers are military veterans, so a third of our workforce are veterans. They were heroes before they ever put on a badge. And they're enforcing these laws to the best of their ability. But when you have people going out there knowing full well that we don't run concentration camps, that ICE doesn't put kids in cages, that we're not Nazis enforcing a law and an order signed by a federal judge, it's those kind of language and that kind of rhetoric that results in people who may not be of sound mind doing things like shooting bullets into an ICE facility in San Antonio, Texas, almost hitting one of my agents, or trying to blow up the detention facility and hurt the individuals that are there working in those facilities, as well as the detainees that are contained therein. It'd be much more useful, and what my goal is to put the facts out there. People want to have a debate about what immigration enforcement should be, and those in Congress have every ability to change the laws if they don't like them, but they don't have the ability, and it's not right for them to make up their own facts. Anybody that sits there and says we run concentration camps can go to our website, look at our detention centers. We have let more cameras into our detention facilities, both our families facilities and our adult facilities, in the past 6 weeks than in the past 6 years. Let them go in there and see, and they will see that they're clean, safe, humane environments, that are people that are being detained by us, again, most times as required by Congress, are being kept in environments which are safe for them. They're being afforded their full due process rights while they're in there. They have access to attorneys. They have full medical, they have recreational, they have educational opportunities. All these things that we provide to these individuals while they're here in the country and in our care and custody. They're not concentration camps. We're not Nazis. And it doesn't help anybody, except maybe a few in the political class that want to get some sound bites on the nightly news, to do that. What it does do is put our officers at risk.
I just love the simple fact of the matter that he says Literally all of that. And like we're supposed to forget what actually happened last couple of months. What I mean by that is it took an act of Congress to allow hygiene products to kids in ICE detention centers. I wish I could make that up. It literally took Congress. It literally took a simple activist group to take Congress to court to get hygiene products, body wash, soap, toothpaste, mouthwash, all that crap, feminine products. It took an act of Congress to get that to them. Again, that should be amazing that we shouldn't even have to say that. But again, coming from the new acting ICE director, there's a lot of things he has to get straight. Like, number one, a lot of Democratic senators tried to visit ICE detention centers. They were turned away. I wonder why. You had records of measles and diseases running rampant through ICE detention centers, mostly with children, not actually giving access to that health care that you talked about. And at the same time, name me one camera that was allowed to go in that didn't already look like the place had just been cleaned before the neighbors showed up. Again, I don't really get the whole idea of him trying to say we're not Nazis. I don't know any other group out there that has actually went after a specific group of individuals, separated the kids from the parents, deported the parents, but kept the kids in cages. Sounds Nazi. Sounds Nazi. So yes, they are concentration camps. Yes, yes, for some odd reason, if you're going to deport illegal immigrants, why do you separate the children from them? And on top of that, the fact that they haven't gave a reason and they still continue to do this, and that more kids have died in immigration care than vaping, should tell you off the bat where the government's priorities are. In this case, they don't give a shit. So, moving right along, guys, in the weird news, and I mean weird news because I didn't know this was a thing, but let me just go ahead and play it. Maybe it'll explain itself.
I would personally do it, but I guess if men are allowed to walk around without their shirts, then women should be allowed to as well.
Well, I guess that's a win for women. I honestly have no say in this, nor do I have an opinion, because I always, for me, I always hate the male joggers that, every morning or at night or whenever I see these son bitches, they always run or exercise their shirts off. Yes, we know you're proud of your washboard 8 abs and whatnot. I don't really want to see it, but then again, I keep it to myself because I'm trying to get down in weight, but I'm not going to, take my shirt off every chance I get. But, hey, if there are some women out there that want to be able to run and jog and work out topless, have at it. But moving right along, like I said, weird news. But moving right along, Justin Trudeau is in the news today, and, for his blackface. And it's interesting to say the least, but let me play it so you guys got an idea.
Trudeau is doing some serious damage control after one picture after another emerged showing him in blackface. Jerika Duncan reports this comes as Trudeau is locked in a tough re-election battle.
This is something that obviously I deeply regret and I never should have done.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau faced a barrage of questions about images of him dressed in blackface, including this latest video released by Global News. The video appears to show Trudeau wearing dark makeup as he raises his hands in the air and smiles for the camera.
Darkening your face, regardless of the context or the circumstances, is always unacceptable.
But pressed hard by reporters, Trudeau would not say exactly how many times he's worn blackface.
More than three times? More than 3 times, yes or no, sir? More than 3 times, yes or no?
Yesterday, when confronted about this photo taken in 2001, Trudeau admitted it was him and apologized. He also recalled one other time in high school that he dressed in blackface, but never mentioned any video. The son of one of the country's most popular prime ministers acknowledged he grew up privileged.
I now need to acknowledge that comes with a massive blind spot.
As leader of Canada's governing Liberal Party, Trudeau built his reputation on supporting diversity. His first cabinet had a record number of minorities and an equal balance of men and women.
Election Day is a little over 4 weeks away. Now, Trudeau is facing demands from his main rival that he step down. Before this controversy, the race was close, so Nora, now it may be even closer.
So Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister out of Canada, was seeing pictures of blackface, which we know in most recent times, a lot of so-called people, a lot of individuals out there in high-position areas were caught using blackface. Some have apologized, some have resigned, stepped down, and what have you. And I've honestly never understood, like, here's my thing. We all do stupid stuff as kids. Or as adults, however you figure. We all do dumb shit. Okay, that's fine. Now, I always believe in the fact of the matter is like, okay, you've been called out on it, what do you do from here? And of course, he's sitting there saying, yes, it was me, yes, it was wrong, it should never happen, and I'm acknowledging this, and I'm trying to make amends for it. I'll give a person a little bit of leeway on that sense. I will give them leeway and it's like, hey, if you're trying to make amends for something you did in the past, cool. We all do it. We all want to make amends and move forward and grow in adults that way. That's just the way of life. I don't get the whole idea of always asking, well, is this the only time you've done blackface, or how many times have you done it? Or it's just like at that point you go from acknowledging it to just smearing the guy. And don't get me wrong, if he's acknowledged it, he's owned up to it, and he continually apologized for it. Again, let's get beyond the all holier than thou. Like, there's a lot of us who have made mistakes that if they ever came to light, that we won't sit there and go, you know what, I'm sorry, it should never happen, I was stupid, A, B, and C. No matter how you cut that mustard, it shouldn't be to the point to where we're necessarily hounding him to get whatever pound of flesh you think you get from him. Trust me, there are way other worse examples of blackface out there that'll make you the attitudes from the people that got caught using blackface are nowhere near as somber as Justin Trudeau is. He's just trying to make amends and trying to help the country move forward. But you got a lot of people out there that say, yeah, I did blackface, so what? That would be the white privilege, but again, he's acknowledging that. So I just don't think the man deserves a lot of heat. I mean, yeah, he deserves some shit, but give the man for a chance to recollect and go from there. If he's able to, reform and move on, cool. That's one saved. But we can't sit there and keep continually doing this to the point to where it's like, oh, well, he's just going to keep doing, A, B, and C. That just makes no sense. But the last couple of things that we got here, which I still think it's funny, Betsy DeVos visits a school with an explicit anti-gender policy, because that was a wonderful idea. Turns out she went to go visit. Turns out she's starting her 2019 back to school tour this week, and she decided to stop at a school that has an anti-transgender policy, which was basically a Catholic elementary school in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So it amazes me so that a person, and don't get me wrong about Betsy DeVos, I pretty much still say she purchased her job. She purchased her job by donating to Trump's campaign, not really surprised at the simple fact of the matter that she literally has no clue about education. Literally, the Department of Education should be ran by a former educator. That's just me. That's the way it should be. That's the way it should have gone from there. And again, it makes logical sense. That's all I'm saying. An economist you would have in the Federal Reserve. A lawyer you would have as the Attorney General. A doctor you would have as a Surgeon General. It just makes sense. It's their field. What the fuck is Betsy DeVos ever good for, aside from draining the public education fund and giving it to charter and private schools? That's all I'm saying. And also the same sense of that is where, in the very sense of that story, was that the Department of Education, acknowledges that they should have done a better job helping people with the forgiveness loan. Excuse me. Which basically rejected 99% of its applicants. Think about that for a second. The public service loan forgiveness program was supposed to help forgive those who are going into public service. It rejected 99% of them. And the simple fact of the matter is that the Department of Education is now saying we should have done a better job. Who runs the Department of Education? Shouldn't be surprised, because Betsy DeVos also has major stakes in those loan companies, those student loan companies like Sallie Mae, Navy, and all them. She actually has a stake in them. And let's be honest, when you have a stake in them, you are basically just saying, hey, let's go ahead and run these people dry and keep these people down and affect their credit and things of that nature as long as they keep paying us. Again, Betsy DeVos is a fucking idiot who only has money and white privilege and basically just wants to destroy our education system as a whole. But speaking of idiots, Ben Carson, the only black guy Trump is able to call his friend nowadays, has decided to do something stupid himself. He decides to call trans women big hairy men in front of his own staff. Again, the guy who is Department of Housing and Urban Development has turned around and said he calls trans women big hairy men in front of his own staff. At this point, Ben Carson, who has said, keep in mind, this is the same cat that has turned around and said controversial things like being gay is a choice. It is not a choice. Science has shown that, that being gay is not a choice. That's been disproven by science. And again, he apologized. But then again, he always turns around and it's like these asinine statements that he makes. And to think, he's a heart surgeon. A heart surgeon. And he makes comments like this. Keep in mind that he's also was trying to input laws with HUD to segregate transgender people that would actually prevent them from not getting home assistance and things of that nature, and not even getting help to local shelters that are sponsored by HUD. So I'm not surprised with Sleepy Ben Carson, because again, he is basically Donald Trump's only black friend that is going to sit there and say dumb stuff like that. Because again, we're in this world where we shouldn't literally criticize. We shouldn't criticize anybody of gender, creed, preference, or whatnot. It should just be accepting all and moving on the fuck from there is what it should be. Because only as adults do you feel like we need to be decisive, but as kids you can play with anybody and no one tells you different. But moving right along here, guys. Which was a surprising news to me, which I never thought I'd see this day happen. A gun maker has decided to stop making AR-15s for civilian sale. The gun manufacturer Colt said in their own statement that they have decided that they are going to stop making AR-15s for civilian use. As they say, there's already large amounts of the actual gun itself on the market. However, even though they are a stout supporter of the Second Amendment, they have decided that they're going to stop actually making AR-15s for civilian use. Now, to me, I want to sit there and say honestly, when it comes to guns, like I said, I'm a gun owner, so I believe there's a whole lot of responsibility and really just common sense that needs to go in education as far as owning a firearm. If you want to own a firearm, cool, but you should make sure that you've been disciplined, educated, trained, and checked out so you're above board. That tells you off the bat that you're thinking ahead. So, in this sense of Colt stopping to make AR-15s was really great. Can't knock it. I actually love the idea that a gun maker is actually saying we need this, taking forward. And of course, this may piss off some gun nuts, but some ammo-sexuals, if you will. But at the same time, there has to be that area of just, when is enough enough? And, we're not going to wait on Congress because Trump's not going to do anything. So at the same time, it depends on us to do something. And especially those who have the power to do so should definitely do so. So again, love the fact that Colt's moving forward with that. And again, maybe there's some changes down the road. But with that being said, guys, now we're going to go ahead into our good news segment. Like I said, usually on How the Frack We Got Here, we do cover a lot that's just doom and gloom and just really not as fun news as you like to do. But, with this being the weekend, you always want to leave it on a good note, has positive vibes, try to endure this heat for as long as you have until winter shows up, which I'm hoping will be soon. But there's some stories I found that I want to share that I find inspiring. Mainly because of this one right here. If you guys remember, I did actually do a report about this guy, about billionaire Robert Smith, and the fact that he was basically wiping out the student loans for the graduating 2019 class of Morehouse College. This man has went one step further. He has decided that he is going to pay off the loan debt that's amassed by parents to send their children to college. Amazingly enough, think about that. Not only has he sat there and set up a class for saying, look, you're going to graduate debt-free, make an impact on the world. And that's great. Now he's going to the parents and saying, you know what? You guys had to pay to send your children here. Let me help you out too. Goodness gracious of mine. You know what? I'm not going to, I used to sit there and say, I wish I went to an HBCU, not because of the fact of what that man did, but it's the fact of the matter is just like, I can always sit there and say I feel like I missed out on some things, which I could say that, but really I didn't. But I love the fact that this is a paying it forward situation. That this man is basically saying, I'm giving you a shot at life, take it and run with it. And I just thought that was cool that he also did it not only for the parents, he also did it for the kids. And at the same time, makes me want to be a billionaire so bad. But moving right along, guys, I love this other story about these two brothers in the candle business that I hope will scare Yankee Candle one day.
Business owners who are making money, and not just for themselves. Errol Barnett shows us how they're lighting the way.
Oh, this is nice.
Thank you.
At this farmer's market, the Gill brothers are selling their own homemade candles. 8-year-old Austin pushes his favorite.
To me, it smells like watermelon bubblegum.
2 years ago, Austin, with his brothers Colin, who is 13, and Ryan, who's 11, were looking for a way to make pocket money.
Had you ever thought about candles before it was time to make a business?
No.
Not at all. Not at all.
They call their company Frère Branchot, Gill Brothers in French, and they've decided not to keep all the earnings for themselves. They now donate an average of $500 a month to area homeless shelters.
Why is that something you want to do?
Because it's the community gives us, we want to give back.
Each brother with his own role to play.
I pour the fragrance into the picture.
Interesting. This is gonna smell good.
On top of school and sports, they produce 10 to 15 batches of candles every day.
The wax is over 200 degrees and it really hurts when you get burned.
Have any of you burned yourself?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Everybody says yes.
3 young men using their own burning passion to light up the lives of others. Errol Barnett, CBS News, Indian Head.
And I love that, just literally brothers that are not only, creating their own business, but at the same time, they're helping others out, especially in the homeless centers and doing things of that nature, which in my mind is cool. And like I said, I always love to see black entrepreneurship. Yes, I am very, very selective about that, only because I see there needs to be more of it. I do believe in the fact that it can, Black Wall Street can come back again. That's just my opinion. You don't gotta like it if you don't want it, but I just love to see the fact that when I see more black people open up their own stores and businesses, things of that nature. That's just me, but it's heartwarming that it's coming from kids. So the last thing I'm going to show, chances are if you've seen this on ESPN Game Day, you probably saw this sign. Busch Light Supply needs replenished, and of course their Venmo Carson King number. And I find it interesting that this man had the gall to really hold that up and sign. And honestly, he actually got responses. He decided that he was just hoping to get some beer money, literally. So he did get about $600 back, and eventually he actually got it up to the point to where at the $600 mark, he decided he wanted to donate. He was going to donate to the Children's Hospital in the local area, and he's raised $8,000. Now, that to me is a cool thing. For simple foot back, like, number one, you never know the ability of really crowd replenishment. Honestly, I mean, it can honestly go two different ways. So I always sit there and say, it is amazing and it is honestly cool to sit there and see someone say, "Hey, this might be a good idea to go ahead and do something worthwhile, to do something that has an impact." I can't knock that in any sense of the word. So again, it was just cool to see him just come forward and say, "Look, $8,000 is cool. More so to the people that decided to go ahead and donate to this Venmo." But again, the simple fact of the matter is that this young man decided to do something good and pay it forward to help those that also might be in need. So that's going to be it, guys, for our podcast. I do apologize if I'm showing a little delayed. Technical difficulties we try to work through the best we can. But thank you guys for all watching. Thank you all for commenting. Some shameless plugging before I do get out of here. I'm not the only cat that does have oh wow, I forgot my words for a second. That has podcasts in our Table of Bosses podcasting group. I'll start off with Vaughn, Avon Witherspoon on Facebook, BBNCA on YouTube. Has several podcasts of his own. He actually has the VSTs, which is a podcast of various news that sometimes can be video games, sometimes be music, sometimes be trailers. Interactive show, just like mine. He has Rhythmness, which was just yesterday, where you can reminisce over the rhythm, in which he goes over musical reviews and gives it to a 4-tier rating system. If you want to know what the 4-tier rating system is, you have to watch Rhythmness to find out. He also has Random as Fuck with Uncle VZ. What is Random as Fuck? Random as Fuck is the pool of ratchets we sometimes dip our toes into to basically take a break from life and have a chuckle. Some videos make you think, some videos make you cry. Some videos, like my personal favorite, of a lady sitting at a Burger King while it's on fire waiting for a change, and all the people outside are literally, who are Burger King employees, are literally waiting outside watching this woman still sitting at her drive-thru window while the Burger King is on fire. One of my favorites. I still chuckle at it. Aside from that, I have my buddy Trace, who actually has 2 podcasts himself. He has The Bump Down, which is a musical podcast, which is music, culture, knowledge, and numbers, in which he goes over what's hot on the charts, on the underground, and upcoming artists like Kiki J. He's promoting Who Hungry Let's Eat. He also likes to have music being played on his show, and so does Vaughn. So if you want your music to be played on Rhythmness or on The Bump Down, please reach out to Trace Brown or Ace Day One Spoon on Facebook, and they'll give you the details on how you can upload music to them. Aside from The Bump Down, Trace actually has the Smoke of Truth, which I like to call the check your ego at the door. No pull punches. It is going to be the bottom stock area of talking. The actual area of talking where people want to go, where egos aren't involved, and you can honestly be able to get to that truth. And trust me, Trace wants all the smoke. With that being said, my other buddy of ours, Thomas Reed, we call Mountain Puncher, who will be a little bit on later today, will be doing his. He would be mad at me right now for not remembering his podcast. His To Be Determined podcast, in which he, like I said, if you've never seen Thomas before, Thomas is a guy in fitness. He literally stays in the gym 7 days a week. But loves to talk about fitness, loves to talk about what works, loves to talk about nutrition, things of that nature, and just various subjects he in the fitness world he wants to talk about and be able to share. So that's going to be a little bit today on Facebook Live at 3 p.m. about To Be Determined Fitness. And of course, with me, I do have, of course, my How the Frack We Got Here, which is every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon. And then later on today will be the Off Limits Podcast, in which I have always said about Off Limits Podcast, as kids, we were always told that you shouldn't talk about politics, sex, religion to others to make them feel uncomfortable. I think that the lack of those conversations has led to the lack of civil conversations, because lately you get people talking over each other, talking at each other, basically being louder than the other, but no one's actually getting through. Where I like to go from there is, the simple fact of the matter is, let's talk about those subjects that, you were not told to talk about. Because I truly believe if we do, then we'll have those civil conversations that we're missing. And that's what Off Limits Podcast is about, because it is the podcast that goes there. So again, that's the podcast. Off Limits Podcast will be later today from, I think we'll do 8 p.m. tonight. 8 p.m. until 10 p.m. And then from there, my other buddy who has a gaming channel, Wingnut Gaming, on Facebook. Wingnut Gaming is my buddy Wingnut, who loves playing first-person shooters. He loves Call of Duty. He loves He loves Borderlands 3, which he now just got on. He loves Fortnite. His choice, not mine. But again, he also loves to be social and be loves fun time when he's playing. I've actually played with him a couple of times on Battlefield as well. But again, if you want to look him up, give him a like, share, and subscribe. It's Wingnut Gaming on Facebook. And finally, all of us do have YouTube pages. So if you look up BigBZA.podcast, the Bump Down, How the Frack We Got Here, and Off List Podcast, you'll be able to see every podcast we've done so far. And just like, share, and subscribe from there. Aside from that, the last thing I do have to say about How the Frack We Got Here, it's all about staying informed. As long as you are what staying informed means, it means that you're not looking at everything at face value. You're actually going beyond that, looking into research, really finding out the truth, and be able to bring it to somebody else to show what you found in order to inspire them to do the same in order to make an informed community. Because an informed community can make a lot of better decisions than an uninformed one, because an uninformed one got us Trump, and that's how the Frack We Got Here. So thank you guys all for watching, and if you like what you see, let me know. If there's subjects or topics of news that I didn't cover that you want me to cover, please let me know from there, and I'll do my best to do it on the next podcast. But aside from that, guys, thank you all for watching. Hope you have a